așa foarte swift să ne ținem de program, pentru că avem un adevărat maraton și s-a întâmplat să fie așa, pentru că fiecare dintre prezentările din această seară urmau să se întâmple în acest an în spațiul Transit, însă poate că ar fi avut un alt moment fiecare, dacă dintr-o dată nu ne-am gândit ce bine că suntem cu toți împreună din nou după 10 ani și putem să vedem unde am ajuns acum, ce mai facem astăzi, dar în același timp să ne și aducem aminte puțin cum era mai de mult, când eram tinere și pictăse, cum a zis cineva. I will speak in English because we have also some guests from abroad, and I will just very briefly introduce h.arta, who are the first to open this evening. We have here two of the three members of h.arta group from Timișoara, Maria Crista and Katharina. We have known each other since 2002, I think, and in 2011 maybe you started this project. 12, okay, the Free Urban Gardens, as it's called, yeah. So it's about the same time we also started here to do something with this garden. And so I'm very happy that you accepted to come and tell us about your experience. And you will just talk, and what do I have to say? I will say a lot of things this evening, but later on. I think let's just start, and if you have questions, do not hesitate. Oh, scuze, da. There was something extra. Okay. Thank you.
We plan to present tonight two of our projects that involve gardens, actually urban gardens and gardens that are built in the former socialist neighborhoods of our city of Timișoara. And we will read texts that we have written in relation to these two different projects in different moments in time. And we will also speak about our experience of doing these projects. And if it's not too much, we will present a really short excerpt from one video that we made in connection to these gardens. And just briefly, both of the projects involve our interest in how nature and city live together, and how can we actually be part of nature and be nature in urban life, but also how do we use public space in these times when public space and public sphere are slowly disappearing. So, yeah.
Okay, so I'll start to read this. This text is written in 2013. The vegetable gardens which used to exist between apartment buildings in the socialist era and then during the transition period have disappeared. Timișoara, like other cities in Romania, has a local regulation which prohibits growing vegetables in public spaces. Even if it may seem like a minor issue, this interdiction is indicative of a mentality which alienates people from means of subsistence, keeping them away from possibilities of autonomy. Free Urban Gardens is a project about small gestures, about self-ecological education and self-anti-capitalist education. Using permaculture techniques, we build gardens between blocks, sometimes on empty fields that people cross on their way, a parking lot in the back of their apartment building, sometimes right under the windows of ground floor apartments, using earth brought from nearby construction site, with beds raised on dry branches we found around. These gardens are not fenced in. Nobody claims them as their own. They belong to whoever passes by. These are gardens born in circumstances where the commons are worryingly more and more attacked by capitalism. At a time when the rights of living beings are secondary to corporatist interest, when the nature of food is becoming increasingly uncertain and genetically modified organisms are infesting cultures, when unpolluted air and water are no longer our inalienable right, at a time when nature is no longer a given, something that is there by default but an endangered territory. What would the city look like if all empty fields, all unused land would be cultivated with food? A food that would be available to the hungry. The gardens, by which we claim a land with ambiguous status, which should be land co-owned by all, and we cultivate food on it, suggest a modest modality of satisfying a need to find cracks in the logic of capitalism. A need to allow the seeds of real life to bloom from between the cracks that creep into the structure of capitalist organization, a structure so devoid of alternatives. 4 years later, we started this project. The gardens keep growing. They have never been vandalized. The neighbors' kids play among the lots we have raised on dry tree branches, and we often have a chance to chat with them about responsibility, about the homeless, about ecology, about food. The neighbors waver between considering the gardens ours and everyone's, including the passers-by, and considering them part of the block grounds. Just like before 1989, the idea of common good is unstable, always endangered both by an acute sense of ownership and the lack of responsibility for something which is not explicitly yours. On the other hand, the tomatoes that grew ripe this summer were tasted by the neighbors and their kids, as well as by the homeless people that walked by. But the main crop of the free gardens is a new view on relations in nature, on the way in which the earth is affected by our gestures, by the traces of our consumption, by the rupture between us and the way we produce our food. To pick plastic residue from the earth in which you will next grapple and plant seeds, to follow the plants grow, to grow plants that will help and support each other along the way, to find natural remedies for plant illnesses, to work in the spirit of nature, to keep a rag of dead leaves which will nourish the earth in spring instead of collecting them in plastic bags, to learn about edible plants in times when the kinds of knowledge is forgotten by most of us who pick our food off supermarket shelves. Chickweed, purslane, common mallow, and amaranth, plants considered weeds and which grow on abandoned fields are both nourishing and healing. I think I started to look differently at nature when we learned more about the suffering and death of animals at the hands of humans, and after that we became vegetarians, vegans. It was the moment when we tried to learn more about a healthy diet based on plants. And after I've seen on internet many people trying to have vegetable or herb gardens on every tiny space available, even on their small balconies, the empty spots around the block of flats from our city suddenly seemed to be huge and full of possibilities. And then we learned that nature thrives on diversity, and contrary to the myth that the main drive in nature is competition, we found that quite the contrary, the survival species is actually based on collaboration. This is something people used to know before intensive monocrop agriculture. That is why traditional knowledge advised gardeners about companion plants that help each other and grow better together. And this companionship also came spontaneously, naturally. If you look at any patch of uncultivated land, from just a glance you can see 7-8 diverse types of grass only, and then so many other weeds. And if you get to the weeds, the discussion becomes even more interesting, because most of the weeds are actually forgotten medicinal plants. Many of them are edible, full of essential nutrients for us, and all of them are beautiful. But we don't see the beauty on a piece of uncultivated land, unarranged land, because we are not taught to see it. When I learned that common vervain is magic, that it brings love and clear vision, and it unlocks hearts, I was so surprised and happy to find her in the dirt, in the most banal places, and it was a true discovery to see the beauty of her tiny white pinkish flowers. And it indeed feels like magic. When walking around the city, you meet plants that you recognize, you know their names, and you know in what way they can help you. So it feels like plants talk to you if you know who they are. There are certain plants who indicate only by their mere presence what kind of soil is there. So we started to use and try to deepen all this new knowledge in developing these gardens. Not only that we try to bring vegetables, herbs, and flowers, but we also encourage the spontaneous growth of the plants that come by themselves. Sometimes we even bring wild plants from the forest and other fields, and we encourage the people, especially the children from the neighborhoods, to see them in their beauty and to learn about the benefits they bring. It's not only gardening for us, but it's also gardening for wildlife. We think that it is very interesting working projects because the knowledge about nature is endless. So to observe her and work with her could make us more balanced and nuanced. It is also a process of education where we can learn together not to destroy her anymore, but to love and respect her as she loves us. And we can learn that nature is resilient and she can come back if we allow her.
Like using this as a starting point, because we got really interested in not in how we can garden around our own building, but also how other people garden in our neighborhoods. And we got interested in how people use these spaces next to apartment buildings, spaces that are in the same time public space, they belong to the city, but on the other hand they are in the care of owners' associations, so they are also in a way belonging to the owners of the flats. So this kind of meeting point between what is in your own propriety and what is public seemed really well symbolized by how people work with gardens. And we got interested in the most practical aspects, like what sort of plants people cultivate, and if they cultivate vegetables or just flowers, or how do they improvise things from how they recycle stuff from their own homes, and how they get inventive, and how they find use for things that otherwise would be garbage. But we are also really interested in how people collaborate or not in these spaces. And we had the opportunity to be part of a project called Spazio Expandat Zona Gri, the gray zone, which was exactly a good opportunity to find out about these gray zones regarding public sphere. And we thought like these gardens are the real gray zones between ownership and public property. And so at the end of last summer, and always at the end of the day, in the light of the sunset, we filmed a collection of these gardens from our neighborhood and from other neighborhoods in our city. Somehow thinking also about the end of the public space, but also about the potential that could still be there in these small public spaces that people use. We talked also to people who are working in these gardens, to kids who are playing around and showing us the place, and also to people who were really on a different range between conviviality and sharing their garden with the neighbors and with the passerby. Also people who are stressed about their gardens being vandalized, people who just fenced off and took over the space strictly for themselves, and many nuances between these positions. So and their voices appear in this video that we filmed somehow anonymously, just mixed with the sound of the city, and without any pretension that it's a complete collection of these positions and of these gardens, but more of like a snapshot of what is public space at this point. So I will also read a text that we have written in connection to this video, and then we will show you a few fragments from it. So the video is called Materialized Definition of the Political. Streets glowing in the late afternoon sun, mothers pushing prams, people on their way to the corner shop, teens on rollerblades, passing fragments of mundane conversations, everything so peaceful and familiar. After 1989, when citizens were offered the possibility to buy at affordable prices the state-allocated apartments in which they lived, residents' associations became owners' associations. The ground on which the building is located belongs to the association, but the spaces surrounding the building are public property, cared for by the owners' association. These are spaces of uncertainty, a tense meeting point between property, caring, tending, indifference, belonging, and exclusion. The garden next to the block of flats is a common good in the same danger of being neglected or appropriated, of remaining an empty field for the wind to swirl around bottles and plastic bags, or by being turned into a fenced-in private garden, domesticated into disciplined rows, cleaned of everything that is chaotic, free, mixed, and potential. A public space perennially threatened by indifference and neglect as a premise for a privatization proof of any possibility. It's not just the gardens that get locked between apartment buildings. What owners dump can also be arrested by collective proprietor management and civilization, which in this case is the reverse of racism and exclusion. The homeless depend on their access to the buckets, as we call the garbage bins. When you clean around your apartment building, when you secure the bins in locked-in metal structures, what is it that you actually want to clean up, to eliminate from the public space? Citizens or municipal management of public spaces becomes a disguise for a tendency to push marginals into even more poverty and despair. Aesthetics and civilization as fuel to exclusion. People out and about in the crispy dusk of the summer evening, breathing in the fresh air, taking out their kids and dogs, or simply chilling and chatting with their neighbors on the benches just outside their block of flats. How many of their conversations are directly or indirectly related to exclusion, injustice, and racism? How much benevolence and conviviality is woven in the loom of this summer evening, of this city? And how much exclusion, albeit perhaps unawares? The garden of a block of flats is a materialized definition of the political. It's about how we choose to live together in a space which belongs to each and all of us. It's about being people who are like us, as well as people who are different from us. It's about the responsibilities we take on, from the smallest practical aspects to those decisions that confer a place its ideological identity. How you negotiate with neighbors who do not get involved at all or get involved too much, conferring public space a symbolic or at the opposite pole a most palpably material significance. To make and tend to a garden by your block, on a ground that is everyone's and no one's, which may be right outside your window or a plot shared with the next door block of flats, which you do not consider all yours even though you have invested in it, which you think of as a place where you spend time with your neighbors or something you take care of out of the sheer love for gardening or because you enjoy the joy and admiration in the eyes of those passing by. How do you invest in this space of all without fear that your efforts will be in vain, that your work will be destroyed, certain that your gestures will bear fruit, that they will be multiplied and transformed, that they will blossom in new forms, in other people and other places? How do you preserve this trust against all disappointments? How do you replant its seed over and over again? The hope and trust that you can do something alongside the others, for the others, the joy of seeing that a rose has bloomed or that a tomato has ripened, does not have to be rooted in an owner's pride. The confidence that you can feel affection, pleasure, attachment and belonging to the streets of your city, to the spaces between apartment buildings, to the dusky light that makes people's faces glow, without locking it all in a space of privilege. The hope that the light at the end of the season and of the day carries the promise of a new morning. So this was the text, and now we would show like 10 minutes of yeah.
5 minutes for questions. If you have now some questions. Urgent questions, and then we will also have time until tomorrow morning.
Can you say, did you involve the neighbors, and how did you do this? Did you like post notes, or was this something that you started on your own and then, like, out of curiosity?
We were talking with them, like from the beginning. It was obvious that we are doing something unusual around the block. So because it's not usual to build this raised beds, which is like a lot of tree branches, and then put the earth over it. And then they were like looking like, what is happening, what are you doing here? They came and asked what we are doing. And but then we also wrote some things, what we would like the garden to be, or the space. It's for everybody, and it was also, and people were like, again, not used to read some improvised something, and yeah, they were just coming and trying. But they didn't really get involved like permanently. Some people, it was very interesting that at the beginning, the majority of them, they were saying like, it will not last, this is Romania, everybody will ruin it, kids will ruin it, dogs will ruin it, passers-by will destroy it, and then they change their mind somehow. And from time to time they bring plants, and I encourage them, and we all encourage them to bring more or to start something, but some people don't have so much time. Kids are always there that wants to start something or to help.
Is there a group, like a more committed group of people that always participate, or that became sort of took over the project as their own as well?
Yeah, I think there are people who are really proud that we have this around our building, and it's also during summers it's used a lot by people who would sit there and talk. So it becomes, in this sense, it becomes a space to be used by the neighbors from our block of flats and from other parts, like the mothers with the kids, and would spend summer evenings there. And there are people who are more involved, like with bringing plants or even planting them themselves. Of course, there are also negotiations, like from time to time the problem of the fence comes up. Like people would say, yeah, our neighbors would say it's really nice, but we should put a fence. And then we have always to renegotiate why is it important to not have a fence and be on open space. So it's like this.
But also from other blocks around, like a kind of big distance, they know about the garden and they come and say, oh, you are so inspiring, make another garden next to my block.
And this is ongoing, you are still doing this.
Yeah.
And did you also, by experience, that, like, are you really using this, that the vegetables to like this Selbstversorger, I don't know the English word, but you also were referring to have to maintain your own vegetables, that you don't have to buy it anymore, or did you decide then, no, now we go more for flowers?
But we save seeds and exchange seeds. We go to this market that exchange seeds, and we also, we are into this keeping and saving the seeds.
And experimenting, it's not sustainable in a sense that we would eat only from that garden. At this point, it's not possible. But it's more also symbolic gesture. Like how can you find out about food that you can grow yourself? Thank you.
We will need just 30 seconds to change the computer, and I will shortly introduce you our next speaker, who is Christiane Erharter, supporter of our garden since the beginning, and of course of our space, an enthusiast of our garden actually. And Christiane Erharter, for those who know her less, she's a curator and project manager based in Vienna. She graduated from the Academy of Fine Arts Vienna and holds a postgraduate degree in critical studies from the University of Lund. Since 2006, she's working for Este Foundation, which is also our sponsor, partner, and kind of the foundation that makes this space possible. She's conceptualizing and curating exhibitions, among them Anna Yermoleva, Good Times, Bad Times, which was in 2015 in Warsaw. At Your Service, Art and Labor at the Technical Museum in Vienna in 2012 and in Zagreb in 2014, and a big blockbuster gender check, Femininity and Masculinity in the Art of Eastern Europe at MUMOC 2009. And yes, so we have been discussing since a while with Christiane about her kind of recent commitment to the life of bees, and she will give us an insight into this experience and interest and yeah, love and sorrow.
Thank you,
what do you need?
I hope. Hello. I cannot promise that we really do this in 30 seconds, but let's try. I will hurry up. And I
can also give you. Do you need this device to make your life easier, or
no.
Okay.
But we should connect here.
Yes. And we have more chairs if you want to come forward.
Yes, but I think it's okay from the computer.
Do you have Bluetooth?
I have Bluetooth. And
if you turn it on, maybe we can have it.
You think so?
Yeah.
This is iTunes.
No, but Bluetooth, not iTunes. Bluetooth.
Wait, but this I want to play. Maybe we can play it from here.
Okay.
Where is Bluetooth here?
Yes, just activate it.
Where is it? I don't have it. But I can play it.
Okay, okay.
Let's try it. Let's try this. So this is a polka française composed by Eduard Strauss, and actually this was a commissioned composition that the Association of the Erste Saving Banks commissioned at Eduard Strauss for its 50th birthday in 1869. So as you can hear, but as you also see from the name, Eduard Strauss is a brother of the famous waltz king of Vienna, and composed for the Erste Saving Banks in Vienna this polka française, opus 54. It is now in his list of works called The Bee. And there will come more examples with the bee in music also. But I will start in my presentation with the bee as a symbol, also a symbol for capitalism, and I will show how it was used in this for the Erste Saving Banks, and then later taken up also by Erste Foundation. We have the bee in the logo since 2013. And then I will talk a little bit about urban beekeeping, because we also joined in Vienna the community of urban beekeepers, and I'm curious to hear also if people in Bucharest are keeping bees already in the city. And I will also talk about the bee in artworks. So Raluca, thank you for inviting me and for having me here tonight. And I'm following also h.arta's activity with the garden, and of course also Raluca's activities. And I'm always very curious how these things work out, and also how you can maintain them, how you can make them sustainable, because this is also a little bit the question, or it's always a challenge for us having the bees, being urban beekeepers. There's always a responsibility involved with this cultivating land and gardening, but of course also the responsibility is even more, I would say, when you have animals, and bees are also considered like Haustiere, also like animals that you keep in homes and in farms. So the interest in bees, I think, grew in the last year. It started with actually with a horror information that the bee will probably die out. There was a lot of bees dying because of the usage of pesticides in industrial agriculture and in monocultures. And then it was also given this information what it would mean when the bee will die, that basically humanity will face a shortage of food. It is a scenario that nobody can really imagine in its total picture, and actually nobody really wants to, because the work of bees can never be done by human beings, although there are some examples in China, for example, where so this labor that what the bees are doing is taken over by humans, by people, but you can imagine that this is what kind of organization is behind this. So over the last few years, more and more bees have been cultivated in urban areas. We at Erste Foundation joined the growing community of urban beekeepers with our own beehives, and we have one located underneath this golden roof, the golden cupola of Secession in the city center of Vienna, and another one close to the new central station where the Erste established its new headquarters. ecological architecture included. So since its inception in 2003, when Erste Foundation evolved out of the Erste Österreichische Sparkasse Association, this composition I played before, they commissioned. The first Austrian savings bank had the B used the B as an emblem, as a logo, with also, of course, this symbolic significance, because the bee has been not only the symbol of the savings banks, or it has been the symbol because of what the bee represented. So the bee represented this philosophy of serving the common good for many decades in many countries. The bee, as the collector of honey, signifies more than financial savings. It has developed into a culturally significant symbol and embodies the idea that social creatures could care for each other. And then this is what the bee is actually standing for in a lot of societies, in almost all societies. It is this symbol for diligence, for work enthusiasm, and for frugality, and in the recent years one could say for austerity. So the bee is very smart in saving for itself and for the whole colony, for the whole state. So as early as in 1820, the bee and the slogan, work, collect, proliferate, was used as a trademark for the Erste Austrian Savings Bank. And the logo was revived in the 1970s and later became the company logo of the Erste Sparkasse. I want to show you this development and the usage of the logo. Let's see if this opens. So this is the former headquarters in the very city center of Vienna. Actually, it is an area that I cannot say that it was gentrified, because this process of gentrification happened many years ago. At the moment, I think it is the most expensive corner for Immobilien, for real estate in Austria. So there is the Erste, which you see here, the logo does not have filiale there any longer, because they rather rent it out in order to lucrate money. So it is juweliers, it is the flagship stores of the international fashion brands. Prada has its flagship store, Louis Vuitton, you name it, and it basically became for local shops. It became almost impossible to pay the rents anymore. We have a very famous Austrian fashion designer for men, Knische. He's there for decades, but it's almost impossible. And they have really good business internationally also, but it's almost impossible for them to pay the rent any longer. So the Erste still, of course, owns this building, but also for them it was, they decided, okay, we will, the whole people who work there at the offices will move to the new building, to the central station. This is much cheaper, and they are renting out this building now. And you see in the picture, you see this Erste Österreichische Sparkasse, so the first Austrian saving banks, and you see on the rooftop this bee already. So in the gable under the rooftop is this bee framed by laurel, and this was used as a logo, and the logo also developed. This is a detail from Nora. very significant the sting, this long sting of the bee. And this was how the logo started. It's very bad reproduction because this is from the archive and very old, but it will get more detailed and better. So you see the bee and already this slogan, work, collect, proliferate, arbeite, sammle, vermehre. This is then later. And also, you know, because when the bee also changed, of course, also our logo changed since we were using it. The first versions of the bee, people ask, is this a fly? Or could not really recognize that it is a bee. This also is looks a little bit even more like a fly than a bee. And then, of course, also this the beehive, the honey basket, and then this is already in the 50s now, that when the logo gets modern makeover. And this is also how other banks use the bee, because this is the Raiffeisen, which is also a big bank that has also big business in Eastern Europe, for example, and they have a comic figure, the Sumsi, and they use this bee. Of course, this name is also, it takes this Sumsen, the bee. This is what the bee is doing, this humming, so it is Hamsi, the bee. Sumsi, this bee, is of course attracting children, and this is what the bank then says, this is like a soft entrance for children to learn how to deal with money, to learn about the value of their Taschengeld, of their money they get as children, and how they should do this into an account, and then how the money will proliferate. So this is this bee that is used by Raiffeisen, Sumsi, and it is still active. Of course, it was also made over and adapted to the year 2017. And here I have this from 2014, when there is the World Saving Day in end of October. And then you usually, in the former times, it was in the past, you went to the bank and you got a gift. Very often you got this a box where you could put money, and then here it says this, it is like saving but with fun. So there is it is fun in this saving money. So this the bee as this symbol for you are saving when you have plenty, and then come times when it is harder to get nutrition. This is what the bee is doing, and this is also what we know, or what actually children are told, that they should save money for times when they will need it, or when they want to buy a new computer or skis or a new toy. So, and like this, and with this saving, this is also, so the bee is known as this diligent honey collector, not getting tired, is a pollinator of not only flowers but of all plants. And the bee also have symbolized this collective savings, cooperative action, and social responsibility for decades. And this is, I think, also one of, for sure, in the when it comes to Erste, for sure the reason why they use this as why this history is so convenient, and to use this as a logo. But it was, of course, not only the bee was not only used as a logo for banks. It was also in, for example, the Freemasons used the bee or the beehive as a symbol. Also, the lodge where the Freemasons met in medieval ages was called the beehive. And also, what when Anka and Maria were talking about these collective housings. So in Austria, for example, also in Germany, it is used. The beehive is used as a symbol for cooperative housings, and very often a beehive is put over the main entrance of the house. And I think I also have here this example. This was just recently published in a newspaper from Berlin, that they are re-establishing this beehive now. In the back you can see this Wohnungsgenossenschaft from 1892. So this is a cooperative for housing from 1892, and they will introduce on 9th of March this beehive again to be put over the main entrances of houses. And I think this is here an example from the Freemasons, how they used the beehive in their logo. I mean, a logo did not exist at that time as a symbol, I would say. So this, and then when we started to take the bees in 2012, it was already, we established this beehive, then I got interested who else is doing this. And of course this is really a trend to have beehives in the city of Vienna. I think in Vienna the beehives are everywhere. They have beehives on the rooftop of the opera, of Burgtheater, of the Nature History Museum, of the Art History Museum, on the City Hall. So, and this is partly done by the institutions themselves, and also the bees are taken care of by the institutions themselves. But then you have also like commercial beekeepers or like professional beekeepers who help the people establishing this and doing this. We are also working with a man and a woman from Lower Austria who helped us with this. And then it turned out that also a lot of hotels have honey. So the Intercontinental, for example, has 2 houses in Vienna, and then they were inviting for a honey tasting when they had the new harvest, and you could then compare the taste of the honey from Vienna to the taste of the honey from their hotels from Melbourne, Boston, Berlin and Hamburg. So they are really having this as a global trend in all their hotels. And it's not only in the big cities. I will show you these city honeys, some pictures that I collected, because basically you have this phenomenon of urban honey, or I call it city honey. You have it almost everywhere, and of course it is also used for city marketing. So for example, Vienna Tourism, when they make these 10 facts that you have never heard about Vienna, or they want to present something that is a little bit off the official travel guides, they will tell you they have the bees under the rooftop of Secession, they have bees here and there, and sometimes also the institutions open the rooftops for the public. It's always a little bit tricky because it is can be a little bit dangerous, and you are responsible for the people whom you go up with to the rooftops. But sometimes this is opened, and then the public can visit this. So I collected some material. This is of course there is a lot of publications and books here. It is woman, urban beekeeper, who tells about her experience keeping bees in Berlin. This is how Berlin markets the honey. So this is honey from Berlin, and they have like Berlin Spring. Then they have the capital linden tree, and they have Berlin Summer. You can order your whole dose of honey for the whole year, different tastes, and this is of course very popular in souvenir shops. Then for people who will visit Documenta, I picked this because this year is also a Documenta year, so they have city honey in Kassel from different parts of the city, and they are advertising with this also. And this is what I said with also in smaller cities, not only in the capitals. So Kassel here, this is an example of Linz in Austria, where also a lot 3 hotels joined this city honey. This is an example of London, and this brings me now, so this city honey you have in these public national representative institutions, but of course also a lot of art institutions joined this club of urban beekeepers. So he is this guy who is taking care of a lot of beehives in London. This is on the rooftop of Fortnum and Mason. It is this food, very luxurious and fancy food shop, but he also is taking care of the bees on the rooftop of, this is Tate Modern. And then it is, you see how it is advertised. This honey comes from bees housed in hives on the roof of Tate Modern. Usually this is, honey is, the prices really vary. I bought now honey on the countryside of Austria, 1 kilo for 15 euros. This is, I think, an okay price in Austria. But it also says something about the good quality of the honey. But of course, when you buy this at Tate Modern, they will not offer you this for 15 euro per kilo. It is much more expensive. It is also then considered as a souvenir and gimmick. But then you will end up with a kilo price of 100 euro for the same honey. This is an example of New York City. It is beehives at the Whitney Museum. And this is also at Whitney Museum already, like with more fancy beehives. This is a project by a Slovene artist, Polonca Lovšin, whom I will talk later about. Also, she makes here a city tour, city bee tour in Istanbul. These are some images. And maybe I'm not sure if everyone is familiar with this, that it is totally fine, for example, for the bee to keep them in the city center. The fact is that the quality of the honey is the same as it is on the countryside. The only thing is why, or what is seen as an advantage in this urban beekeeping is that in the city you don't have to deal with pesticides. So no one uses pesticides in the city, and this means also that the bees don't have to deal with this. And all other things like the pollination by cars and traffic, they have a bladder, bees have a bladder, and through this bladder they filter all this pollution, exactly. And therefore it is, this city honey is considered as a very good quality. Yes, and this is Polonca Lovšin made a mapping of the beehives in Istanbul with this project. This is an artist group Finger, who are based in Frankfurt and who dedicated their whole artistic practice to bees and beekeeping. So they have, I don't know, I think each of them has around 50 colonies and is doing this also as an additional income, producing honey. And here this is the beehives on the rooftop of Museum of Modern Art in Frankfurt. I think they were internationally one of the first who started with this putting a beehive on the top of a museum, and then also attracting, of course, the audience. This is like art mediation program, different one. You invite the visitors of the museum to watch the bees and to learn something about beekeeping. And this is their honey, city honey from the rooftop of Museum of Modern Art in Frankfurt. This is Mr. Haselsteiner, who is beekeeping with us under the rooftop. This is under the rooftop of Sezession. So this is this green laurel that is mixed with the golden leaves on the cupola, but it is structure that is breathing. So you are in open air. On where he is standing and where the beehive is, you are in open air. And he's calming the bees with smoke. This is some details. And one what is very astonishing for everyone who is beekeeping in the city is that the bees produce much more honey than on the countryside. So one beehive in the city gives you 50 kilo of honey, whereas one beehive on the countryside gives you 20 kilos. So it is more than double in the city, and this is because there is plenty of food usually. One would not consider this, but it is a fact that these parks and the green areas provide enough food for the bees. Because I was afraid already, what if everyone would take now bees and then they would struggle for nutrition or for food, but this is not the case. The bee that is marked with this white dot is the queen bee, and these are our happy beekeepers, our happy professional beekeepers, Mr. Haselsteiner and Ms. Heidrun Singer, and the woman to the left is Heidrun. There is only one woman, but this is Heidrun, and she is a very famous breeder for bees. So she makes her living with breeding bees. The Carnica bee, which is very popular, this is the best bee for honey producing, and for example, she hates it when she comes to the beehive. This happened once that the queen disappeared. So the bees made a new bee, a new queen, and she was like, no, now I don't know which genetic pool this is, and I cannot trust this bee because I don't know her, this queen. I have to take her with me to investigate and to research this at her home in Lower Austria, where she has the laboratory and everything. So she is a famous breeder for queen bees, and she's selling them into the whole world. This is done by postal service, so you can order this queen bee, and then it will be sent to you by postal mail. So this is what I wanted to show you for this city honey. And of course it is I have to say it is really amazing thing, but it is a lot of work. It is a lot of experience. When you see people who do this on a daily basis, you see that it is almost everything is about doing it, about practice, not about theory and reading, but really taking it, doing it. And the thing is that the bees are also, they have various diseases, and one that is all over Europe is this Varroa milbe. It is a parasite that attacks the bees, and the bees really suffer from this. So also a beehive is usually affected by it, and can also cause the death of a whole beehive. There is not so many things you can do against this. You can have to prepare then the bees with acid, with ants acid, but this you can only do after you have taken away the honey. So it is a tricky thing that needs a lot of knowledge and experience. So this is the bee in or urban beekeeping, city honey, and how this honey is also used in city marketing. And in the bees in arts, I want to give you some examples, because I joined the artist group Finger for a workshop in Budapest, actually, when they introduced a new museum for bees, and a mixed bee group, a group of people that started to do urban beekeeping in Budapest. And of course their idea goes back to Joseph Beuys and his ideas with the social plastic. And I want to only show a few examples of how the bee is not only used, is a protagonist in certain artworks. So this is Saint Ambrose. This is of course not contemporary art. It is from the Renaissance and it is church art, and he is considered the saint of the beekeepers. There was a legend, as with every saint, that as an infant a swarm of bees settled on his face, and while he lay in his cradle, they were leaving behind a drop of honey, and his father considered this as a sign of his future eloquence. He was a very eloquent man and honeyed tongue. And for this reason, bees and beehives often appear in the saint's symbology. So you have here on his left hand the beehive. Then I mentioned him already. I think he's also like the patron for the bee, how it is used in contemporary art. This is this famous work, Honey Pump at the Workplace, from 1977. Joseph Beuys was already the second time when he was invited to participate in the documenta, and he said only when he participates when he can continue with this international free university. So he had 100 days, as the documenta lasts, 100 activities, 100 events in his international free university with his students, and of course with the whole setup of this university. This was the honey pump, was a technical installation. It was two big motors were pumping 150 kilogram of honeys through several staircases of the Fridericianum in Kassel. But not only did this pump 150 kilo of honey, but also of margarine. And Beuys considered this, of course, like it was a symbol for him for this circulation, like also this heart and blood circulation, and that this is only this can be the framing for this social organism when the people come together for these discursive events. So this is this installation view. So it is a construction with a lot of pipes and going over several staircases. This is how it looks when it is dismantled. So for Beuys, he was interested in not only in bees. He was, as you know, he was interested in a lot of animals, and he worked many artworks with animals. In the bees, it was this social dimension of the bees that he was interested in, but also this ability of bees to that bees understand how to organize a state, how to build a state. So this is an example of Pierre Huck. It was a work he did for Documenta in 2012. It is this untilled female nude, a concrete sculpture, and the woman has on the head a beehive. It is a wild beehive, so this is not a cultivated beehive. It is not kept in a box. So the bees arrange around this head. And this was this concrete sculpture is only a part of the work. The work was much bigger. It was in a garden. It was in this big park in Kassel, on the very edge of the park, where usually you only have the compost and some wooden huts where you keep the stuff to maintain the park. And he chose this site and also planted psychedelic plants. So there was marijuana, also it was hemp, and some mushrooms and other plants that had meaning for Pierre Huck. And so he's looked at this arrangement also as theater. It was also this living organism. He was clearly referring also to Joseph Beuys' idea when it was installed at Documenta in Kassel. And then later he sold this piece to the MoMA, to New York. Now there is a professional beekeeper taking care of the head of the woman, of the bees. The MoMA also started beekeeping, so they have also bees now. For sure they don't harvest these bees, but they have other beehives. Here you see this beekeeper, this beekeeper that MoMA hired to take care of these bees. And this is also a photograph from Kassel, where you see this structure that the bees were building. And this is also a view from Kassel, where you see also a little bit this no man's land, or this land that is on the edge between being cultivated and not being wild, not cultivated. Then I wanted I mentioned already Boulanger Lovshin. She did a lot of works with bees. She works with collages, usually comes from architecture, studied also with Majetica Botric. She's from Ljubljana, from Slovenia, and she's also engaged as a private person in an urban gardening project in Ljubljana. And she was curious how she heard about a man in the countryside of Slovenia who managed to produce more honey, much more honey than the colleagues, and she followed this story. To make it short, this man was beekeeping in the city of Ljubljana. This was the reason why he had so much more honey than the others. But she was making then this story out of these honeybees with these collages. So there is this. Somebody's poisoned us and we are dying of hunger. I think it's big enough that you can read. We all got the varroa, this is why we are dying. And then she makes these collage stories. Here she tells the man who had heard that all the bees are dying. Here you see this example from China, where people started to pollinate plants by handwork. Here she's making reference to this beehive structure, how it is used in architecture, contemporary architecture. And you have here this, to the left, housing area, and to the right, traditional beehive from Slovenia, how it is put up there on the countryside. And this is now the success story, how bees are kept on the rooftop of the opera in Paris. This is the artist group Finger, I told you, from Frankfurt. It is two men, Andreas Wolf and Florian Haas, who work with bees for almost 20 years now. And this is their installation in the back of the Kunsthalle in Budapest, new museum for bees. And they were dedicating this, so this is real beehives with real bees in it. And they decorated the tops of these beehives. And they were dedicating this, as it was in Budapest in 2013, they were dedicating this to the political situation in Budapest and to Orban's suggestion of illiberal democracy. So they gave this example of like the beehive as a democratic, organized as a democratic state, and had there in the middle also they made a poll: should we eat them or not? The bees, because this is also what is always suggested. Bees is among the insects that is very nutritious for human beings. So always when there comes this study, what kind of insects can be also eaten by human beings, the bees is among the ones that are considered eatable. And there was even a chef, a cook, who prepared bees that one could eat there, but this was only for one evening, I think, and almost nobody dared to try them anyway. And the poll, of course, in the end, it was no, we should not eat them. So this is examples of their honey from their urban beekeeping in Frankfurt. And this was, I took this because this was so. Actually, it was also Raluca in this workshop, and Livia Pancho is here. And they made a presentation and workshop for beehiving, for urban beekeeping on the countryside, as you can see, because we are here in the countryside of Tyrol in the Alps. And we were there for a community meeting with our project partners and invited them to make a presentation. So this was very low key. They presented their activities, also practical knowledge, and in the end we were here doing, usually they do this with children, and in that occasion they did it with us. We were making small sculptures out of bee wax, because of course there is not only the honey that the bees are producing, there is also bee wax and this royal jelly, a lot of products that is produced by the bees and are used. I will end now my presentation with a project, with again a sound piece. It is a project by two contemporary musicians from Austria. One is Wolfgang Schlögl. He is a member of Sofa Surfers who gained some international knowledge, and he did a project together with Paul Diviak, who is also an Austrian musician. They made field recordings on the countryside with bee sounds, recorded sounds also from within the beehive. And this is detail from their performance at the Museum of Applied Arts in Vienna. And I will show you this, this only 1 minute from this video. I have to see it in the script somewhere. The link. Okay. Aha, okay, because I'm not connected to the WLAN. Mm-hmm. Z?
This one?
No.
Okay.
You can look it.
No.
Okay.
Super.
And then I'm done. Then it's okay, oder? Yeah. Okay. Yeah, we were late, and then it was not possible to feed this all in your computer.
Yeah.
But it should be okay. I'm sorry about this. But so not the whole thing, but from here it gets interesting. Thank you. I take it off.
We have time for just one question and then 3 minutes break, and then we switch computers. We have one more presentation and one book launch, and then we have the party. So please endure this. And we have more chairs, so if you come back. No questions?
I don't think so.
Looks like.
Actually, I leave the CDs with you, Raluca.
How did they send the fees to the postal service?
Yeah, in these boxes. When this video that I showed you, yes, they have this. It is wooden. It is a wooden box.
They look like an iPhone.
And then they have this net that they can breathe. Yes, for sure.
They can breathe.
Yes, they can breathe. You know, it is. Yes. Sometimes they are in the customs take usually they get the letter and they put them out. But it, I was Das ist deiner, oder?
Genau, deiner liegt da.
Danke.
Okay. Did you take your...
Yes, look.
Okay. back because later when I send some
Did you connect
pictures.
to the internet?
No, not so.
But please do it now so that we
Yeah, exactly.
So yes. It's not working?
I don't know.
Okay, so is this Z? Or
Z.
this-
Yes.
Yeah, it's this one. Huh? Oh, maybe I have made it.
Do we start?
I don't know, I said 3 minutes, but everyone went
Went
to the
out.
toilet or smoking, yeah. Maybe we wait 2 more minutes.
Yeah, it's not. I mean, it's. No, I read most of the time, so I don't know. Maybe 20 to 25 minutes.
Yeah,
Not so much.
Yeah, maybe 20.
Yeah. So I know how long. So
Yeah. Okay, because then I think we will in any case it's not going to be that it won't take that long because it's a discussion. So we will anyway finish by 5 minutes.
No, one takes one, do not take more than one. I think
Musste warten.
I told people we will start.
Okay.
And we will. I'm trying to take more chairs here. Just in case. I think we will start because we are running late and people will join us. I already told them. I hope they come sooner rather than later. Okay. So I'm very happy that on a short notice Katharina Koch accepted to come to Bucharest and join us for this event. She has been one of the participants in Public Art Bucharest as well. She made a documentary film of the entire project, and when we move to the other space for the party, you will be able to actually see the film. It's there on a TV. But apart from this, she's now the artistic director of the feminist art space Alpha Nova and Galerie Futura in Berlin. And this is the work that she will present tonight in connection to some perspectives on feminist curatorial practices. And she holds a PhD in cultural anthropology from the Humboldt University in Berlin. And so she's also a filmmaker, and her main topics are feminism, art in public space, participative art, and film. And thank you very much, Kata. We are looking forward. Sorry for this, maybe we allow for 30 seconds.
Okay, 30 seconds. Yeah, so hello everyone. I'm really happy and excited to be back in Bucharest after such a long time, and I really want to thank Raluca for inviting me and also for organizing this really great get-together. And I prepared a presentation. I think it's not too long, I hope, but it's a presentation on the work of our space, Alpha Nova and Galerie Futura, and I called it this presentation Feminist Approaches in Art Curating. So I would like to give an insight into the work of the Berlin-based feminist art space Alpha Nova and Galerie Futura by presenting the concept and self-positioning of the space and resulting practices and working structures. And moreover, I would like to discuss some ideas and perspectives on feminist curatorial practices. Alpha Nova and Gallery Futura is an art space for exhibitions and cultural events with an explicit gender-critical perspectives and focuses on collaborations with women artists. The project was founded in 1986 in former West Berlin. Based on a feminist self-concept, it wants to create a space which combines political intervention and artistic practices to develop critical perspectives for the artistic and academic communities, as well as for society at large. After 25 years, a generational change in the curatorial conduction of the gallery was initiated. In 2012, my former colleague Anne Kohl and I overtook the project as new art directors. And this generational change went along with a strong reflection on changes and developments in positions, practices, and strategies of feminist art curating. The space once started out as an explicit women's project, agitating for the visibility of women artists and acting in the spirit of the second wave feminism in Western Germany, of fighting for women's rights, participation, and emancipation. Today, the social and political context, as well as feminist theories and politics, have changed. The woman isn't thought as a certain and fixed identity anymore, and instead gender is theorized as socially produced, and the interdependencies with other social categories are stressed, like age, religion, race, health, cultural background, and social participation. And those always imply a hierarchy and inequality. So feminist politics today, also in the arts, focus on the production and also reproduction of these inequalities, which are still very present in our societies. And with Alpha Nova and Gallery Futura, we want to stress the continuing importance of feminist approaches, which aim at making visible and challenging the reproduction of power relations and inequalities based on heteronormative logics within the art communities and the art markets, within the process of art production, within practices of curating, exhibiting, and representation, and within the writing of art history. In this sense, we understand feminist approaches always as political ones. But running a feminist art space does not mean exclusively talking about gender-related issues and highlighting marginalized topics to us, but rather discussing non-hierarchical ways of production, communication, collaboration, and non-hierarchical forms of exhibiting and representation. Moreover, it means for us a strong reflection on our own involvement into power relations and their reproduction, a reflection on our reproduction of exclusions by choosing, for example, specific topics and by inviting certain people to collaborate. And it requires a strong reflection on our own privileges as white academic women. We considered it still as important to work mostly with women, to offer them a space for representation and presenting their works, as well as to offer a space which we would call a safer place to discuss certain topics and share specific experiences in women-only groups. The situation for women in the field of art is still more difficult than for their male colleagues, due to hegemonic and unequal structures also within the arts. So one concern is still empowering women artists and their works by offering the space and a context and also giving support in different ways. However, we do not consider feminism as just a women's fight, but instead as an open concept to criticize and fight hegemonic power relations and that lead to inequality and exclusions. So our idealized goal is to create experiences and knowledge beyond the logics of representation based on subjective individual experiences, production of identity, on social participation, on non-hierarchical structures, and on solidary collective collaboration with all kinds of gender. But how does the reality look like? So in everyday practice and collaboration with artists in the implementation of exhibitions, events and projects in the context of support institutions, these ideals often meet with hurdles, contradiction, conflicts, doubts and frustration, of course. But before I will go deeper into some problematic aspects, I would like to present 3 projects that we realized in the last years, and I would consider them as feminist motivated in terms of the issue they raised or in terms of the processes of their implementation. So the first one called Fashion X, Gender Critical Perspectives on Clothing and Fashion, and we initiated it in 2013. So, does it work now? Yeah. So I will have prepared a small slideshow that you get a better idea what I'm talking about. So this project focused on the interface between fashion and artistic as well as political practices in order to figure out new perspectives on individual and collective potential for capacity of acting. It was realized as a series with an exhibition, lectures, presentation, talks, films, and a workshop, as well as a so-called discursive fashion show. We call it Dressed for Discourse. Artists, activists, fashion designers, theorists were invited to work on 2 main topic areas. So the first one focused on the conjunction of clothing, fashion, and identity from a gender-critical viewpoint. And the second highlighted the feminized production of clothing and fashion in the global context and discussed potentials not only to reflect on exploitation in terms of normative production conditions, but also to ways to subvert those in terms of fair campaigns and alternative strategies of production. The project as a whole led to this already mentioned discursive fashion show, and here both topic areas were connected to each other. In collaboration with the participating fashion designers and artists, a moderated fashion show was created. It raised questions of powerful structures that determine clothing and fashion in terms of identity and belonging, as well as in the framework of their production modes. The show was a playful format to approach the mentioned topics. Instead of a classical catwalk, 3 thematic fields with the titles Everyday Life, Utilization, and Deconstruction were initiated. And every piece of clothing and every outfit were presented with its background idea and its origination process, and were contextualized in one of these 3 thematic fields. All participants aimed to challenge the interface of fashion, activism, and art with their collections. And all presented clothing and outfits were provided alternatives to consumption-oriented circulations of production and exploitation by strengthening local and fair working conditions and fair trade fabrics, as well as highlighting individuality instead of mass production. Beside the practical value, every clothing or outfit also conveyed, furthermore, a political message in one way or another. So, the second example I would like to give was a project called Precarious Art in Protest and Resistance, and was initiated in 2015. In 2015, we realized in close cooperation with the Black activist, artist, and curator Stacey C.C. Graham the exhibition and event series Precarious Art in Protest and Resistance. It confronted the subject of structural and everyday racism and sexism within the Berlin art establishment and included a workshop, exhibition, film, and spoken word evenings, as well as a 2-day symposium. Centered around the question of intersectionality, we used an approach cemented by Bell Hooks, an US-American feminist academic and activist that constantly connects the structures of capitalism, imperialism, patriarchy, and white supremacy in their entanglement and interaction. We used this approach as our point of departure in order to subject the Berlin art establishment as a mostly white, non-migrant, and male-dominated domain to a critical review. With few exceptions, women artists of color are not the decision makers in this sphere of activity. Further, there are a few spaces in which they can present their work or in which they feel represented. They experience these structures not only as racist but also as sexist, and therefore encounter their work area art in many respects as exclusionary and precarious. On the basis of the question of possibilities to adopt, infiltrate, or produce alternative contexts, a dialogue on the different strategies emerged: how women of color as creative artists can counteract structural racism, everyday racism, sexism, as well as their experiences of marginalization and non-representation in a white art establishment. At the same time, it was discussed to what extent art spaces can provide true inclusion and what solidarity practices are imperative to do so. So this included a critical self-analysis and reflection of actual perspectives on the part of the white actors in the art scene in order to put their spaces and thereby also their privilege at disposal. Within the framework, it became clear that a central question was continually posed and must be attended to. So who is telling whose story? Or more concrete, based on the everyday work in art projects, who gives whom space to speak, how and under what conditions are representation practices shaped. The project sought to highlight, break down, and introduce long-term changes in discriminating structures and representation practices. And in this sense, one emphasis of the work of Alpha Nova and Galerie Futura is on this topic and on continuing discussion. In autumn 2017, we will host a continuation project that aims to generate and disseminate knowledge in such a way that members of the underrepresented communities are not put in a position of educating those from socio-politically privileged points of departure. The interest is to raise the visibility of these artists and those they represent within a context of the norm rather than from the gaze of a deviant political object. The artists present their work and themselves on a part of the norm and simultaneously as specific political subjects. So, and the last example I would like to give is a project which we initiated last year called Welcome to Futuristan. And it didn't take place in our space because of spatial reasons, but instead in Kunstquartier Bethanien. Maybe some of you know the space, which is in the heart of Kreuzberg, one district in Berlin. So, okay. In 2016, Alpha Nova and Galerie Futura turned 30 years old. And so we were taking this anniversary as an occasion for dealing with past and current perspectives of the participating artists, as well as asking for continuities and breaks. The exhibition Welcome to Futuristan united artists from different generations and investigated their past and contemporary understandings and desires in relation to a self-determined artistic practice. Ideas about work and life conditions, inequality, discrimination and precarity, as well as social counter-designs were discussed. It's not only in connection to feminist art concepts and representational practice of the 1970s and 80s that once again the question about the subversive potential of art arises. Our interest and point of departure were questions like what is currently the situation in terms of need and necessity for confronting the structures of the art system and social norms with irritating viewpoints, disturbing aesthetics, and approaches that have change as a goal? What media, playful as well as combative formats and strategies are developed and or rediscovered for this aim? And how have feminist artists been positioned and how are they positioning themselves in view of global crisis and existential social arguments? In dealing with emancipatory utopia, the exhibition also aimed to investigate which different concepts of the term utopia still exists within the framework of artistic production, and what might eventually replace it. In this sense, the exhibition united heterogeneous voices of women who asked themselves what Futuristan might look like, how it might be, and what changes would be a precondition for this. The themes, formats, aesthetics, and perspectives were very diverse, but there was also something which connected them with each other. It was conspicuous that many artists were dealing with biographical aspects. The initial point in some works was the own biography and personal experiences of the artist. In other works, the focus was on biographies of women that inspired the artist. However, the backward look towards history writing, and personal histories was playing a decisive role to approach present times and future imaginations. Within this framework, female models were given special importance. Some artworks were dealing with hegemonic history writing and its omissions and its marginalization of female biographies. They were highlighting an admiration for certain biographies of women that are non-visible in official history writing. These women were honored in the works. The wish to empower and to develop future-oriented perspectives on, for instance, decolonized forms of knowledge production was very present in most of the works of the show. As far as a little or short insight into some concrete projects which we developed in the last years. Before I close, I would like to talk about some problematic aspects we have to deal with in our everyday practice and other aspects that have to be in mind while working in such structures like we do. We are funded by the Berlin City Hall, which allows us to realize a program and to pay people for their work and get paid for our work. But it's still precarious and the budget is very low. So in fact, we work under permanent precarious conditions, and moreover, we reproduce an exploiting system that is very present in the field of art. We do so because we cannot really pay a proper fee for people we invite to present something at our space. So in this sense, we always have the dilemma to reproduce conditions that we actually want to fight. So one question we must always have in mind is how to deal with these contradictions. Should we really follow the motto, something is better than nothing? Where are the limits of the acceptable? Another point is the ideal of these non-hierarchical working structures. So due to different roles and positions within a specific context, it's sometimes not avoidable to produce hierarchies in terms of knowledge, for example. And this circumstance leads quickly to inequality in difficult situations in everyday practice and communication. A last point that I would like to mention is the fact that we, as the ones who are running the space, produce permanent exclusions and by choosing specific topics and by inviting certain people to collaborate. We cannot ignore, but rather we have to problematize the fact that we are white academic women who are the art directors of the space, and so we also mostly produce an audience that is similar, and we reproduce a space that is white, although the ideal situation would be to generate a heterogeneous and inclusive space. So our question we always have to deal with or have in mind is how is a real change possible, and how can we share power, responsibility and resources in a more open and transparent way? What are the preconditions for practices based on honest solidarity and involvement? We think it's necessary to have a permanent debate and reflection on the mentioned problematic aspects and questions. But reflection is sometimes not enough to change something, and that's why one thing we are going to start now together with another independent art space in Berlin called District is a series with meetings and common works on the question of feminist curating. And we'll start with it now this week. With this mentioned art space, district, and a heterogeneous group of people. The group includes the curators, artists, thinkers, and activists to discuss content, structures, fields, and formats of engagement of feminist curating. The idea is to work together towards a code or manual or a guide or simply inspirations for intersectional feminist action within the field of the curatorial. And a set of first questions we are interested to discuss are: what do we mean by feminist curating? Which themes, questions, and problems are relevant in this regard? Which are the contexts to intervene into? In what way can we speak of a we? How can structures and practices of solidarity and inclusion be imagined, created, and put to work within the arts? Which are the alliances with other anti-hegemonic perspectives today? And how do we want to work together? So the knowledge created in the conversations and workings of the group should be documented, gathered, and edited on a shared blog, so that it serves as a work and discussions resource for us and everyone else who is interested in. And yeah, as I mentioned, the series will start this week with the first meeting. And as it's a very open concept, we were also thinking to encourage discussion and exchange and beyond the Berlin context, of course. And before I want to close, I would just invite maybe those of you who are interested also in these questions and topics to go on, maybe to have an exchange, to think together in formats or ways to work on these topics. Okay, thank you.
For how long do you still have this funding secured, or you apply every year?
Every 2 years. Yeah.
And for this anniversary project, you got some extra.
I mean, we always have to apply for extra money, more or less, to have these, to realize these bigger projects, of course. And sometimes it works, and sometimes not. So it's, But with the money we have, we can provide of course a program, but not really this bigger things. Okay. We can talk also later. So I mean.
Okay, thank you, Katharina. And we are slowly coming to the end of the presentations marathon. We have now a more informal one with Nora, Dorogan, and Nicoleta Esinencu, who are here to present us a book that Teatru Spălătorie has published recently. And I will just maybe introduce briefly Nora, and maybe then you can say more about Nicoleta. Shall we do it like that? Because with Nicoleta it's a long list of things. And so Nora Dorogan studied sociology at University of Bucharest and cultural management and cultural policies in the Balkans at the Art University in Belgrade. In 2007-2008, she had a grant from the program Cultural Managers in Central and Eastern Europe of the Robert Bosch Foundation, and she is one of the co-initiators of Teatru Spălătorie in Chișinău, the famous space that most of you probably have heard of. And yes, these are the books.
Cool.
So thank you for coming, both of you. They will not fall. It would be nice, yeah. You don't have to sit, you can also, yeah.
I prefer to sit.
Hi.
I don't know about presenting it to Nicoleta.
Maybe just, just tell us what motivated you to make this book. And,
here is Nicoleta's book, and I wanted to, I wrote this like this because this is how I took it from the printing house, and when I took it, it was written here, poems, and for me this is like, well, this is the first book of Nicoleta that appeared in Moldova, that we published it, and for me this was like a first perception how the Moldovan publics see her text, and this is because it's like it's nothing written. They just have a look inside, and you will see it's like how it's structured on the page. They perceive it as the poems and not like text or theater text. Anyway, we published a book 2 years ago in 2015 at the Teatru Spălătorie, and the reason or the story behind is very simple. Just like I said, it's our first book published in Moldova, and we were already working with Nicoleta for several years in Chișinău in Spălătorie, and we were producing some of her works, but it seemed that unfair that we understood that the international foreign public knows her text her works much better than the local public, and especially also professional students at the Academy of Art have no access to her text, because also when you see in the book, the book contains 9 texts by Nicoleta, and 4 of them they are known to the Moldovan public and also probably to some public in Romania, because it's a text that we performed, or in other independent projects they were performed, they were staged in Chișinău. But the other 4, they are not known because they were written in residency programs or in different international programs, and they were directly translated in German, French, but then were not accessible in Chișinău. And also the last text in the book, Не забудьте выключить телевизор, don't forget to shut off the TV set, about propaganda, especially on the Russian television, in the Russian system, but not only. It was written especially for this book. Well, the book doesn't have a title, doesn't have a publishing house, because, we were waiting for a while, but someone in Chișinău publishing house would say, okay, maybe it's time to publish her book. Nobody came with this idea, so we decided, it should be maybe our responsibility, and we decided to publish it and to offer to the Academy of Arts, to libraries in Chișinău, and in future maybe around Moldova too. It's not... yes, and Nicoleta is here, and if you have some questions and she can also say something.
And I think you brought some books that you can buy actually, and maybe get the...
Yes, she doesn't really like, so I didn't dare to ask her to do this. she's not a fan of, but maybe she can do this. Yes, the book is 30 lei.
And how is it going with the Spălătorie right now? Because I've seen your crowdfunding and trying to survive.
Well, we are, at the moment we are doing okay. We were more scared for 2 years, in the last 2 years, because it was very difficult to renew the contract, because the building is actually on sale now on the market. Luckily for us, the fact that we lost our state, I don't know, we lost 1 billion euros. Well, someone stole, but we lost it. Someone stole 1 billion euros. Because of this, things are not going very well economically in Moldova. So the house where we built, the big building where we are in the center seat, actually, it is on market in the last 3 years, but nobody wants to buy it. So this is, for us, this is a lot, and we are still there and still performing. So it's, I think it's going well. Yeah.
That's good to hear. Anyone has some questions?
Nu știu ce să spun, adică dacă vreți să mă întrebați ceva, pot să spun, dar mai mult decât în carte oricum nu o să spun, sigur.
Telefonul tău se potrivește cu cartea, e doar o coincidență, se seamănă că...
E o întâmplare, da. Și asta se potrivește.
Exact, cred că am văzut pe asta.
Nicoleta este acum într-o rezidență la Cluj.
Da, apropo asta pot să spun.
Da.
Sunt acum în rezidență la Cluj, la Reciproca. Și o să fac un atelier acolo de scriitură și în rest și după vin acasă și avem de făcut treabă și acasă, cam asta fac.
Aveți în plan să veniți?
Și la, exact, la București vom veni la sfârșitul primăverii, cred că 30 mai până pe 2 iunie la Macaz.
Să jucăm
Da,
spectacolele
invitați de
la
David
spatele.
Schwarz. Da. Vom juca 4 spectacole, 4 producții a Teatrului Spălătorie.
About strawberries?
Yeah.
Does it include?
No, it's a more recent.
This is a recent
Many